So I just got out of Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. Was it The Last Wish? I think it's The Last Wish. And I never thought I would have said that. Like, if you cut back to a year, I would be surprised to hear myself say that. I went and saw Puss in Boots 2, but everybody's been praising the hell out of it. Everybody has been, like, putting in a word for it. The final straw for me was I watched, like, fucking YMS talk about it, and he gave it an 8 out of 10. And for anyone who knows that guy's channel, that's insane. Right? Not that I base all of my movie watching decisions on YouTube reviewers, but that was definitely the final, like, straw with Puss in Boots where I'm like, all right, I gotta see this and I need to see it in theaters. And I'm really glad I did, because visually that's, like, probably one of the highlights of the movie, but it's also very well written, very likable, very, like, surprisingly dramatic. I mean, like, really, it's another film that's covering on the theme of death, and I love stuff like that. I love video games that cover that. I love movies that cover that. Death is just a horrifying, but also insanely interesting topic to cover, and if you do it well, it's wonderful. It's some of my favorite indie games are about death in a way, like the Sigmund Corp games, or Rockin', or just recently I played Before Your Eyes, and yeah, death is a interesting subject to me. It's, if you do a good job with it, it is very easy to get me invested. And they don't go that light with it in this movie. They really don't. In fact, I'd say they go harsher than some of the things I just named. Okay, maybe that's pushing it a little bit. But it's not far off of those things I just named. Because the scenes with death where, like, death as a character shows up, they're genuinely unsettling. I listened to a little bit of the soundtrack before seeing the movie, and that also pushed me on it more, because holy shit, it just sounds so, the fucking whistle theme sounds so unsettling. It made me so curious to check it out. I never saw the first Puss in Boots. This movie, I definitely felt like I didn't need to. The only thing I think I'm missing from this movie and the first one is I'm assuming that the black cat that Puss is talking to throughout the movie, I forget her name, I'm assuming she's introduced in the first movie. I'm assuming she's a character coming back from the first film, while I'm also assuming every other character is a new character. I don't, like, she's the only one that felt like there was, like, a history with. So my hand keeps blocking. I'm holding my phone up in a stupid way, but my hand gets sore. And I felt like the movie caught you up on her, like, immediately, and it was well explained, and you do not need to watch the first one. I had no interest in watching the first one. I had no interest into the sequel until it got the reaction it got. And I have no idea what this movie, a sequel to Puss in Boots, is doing being so damn good. The fact that, you know, they were able to make this, and they were able to make this the way they did, it is standout. It is like, it's like a Lego movie situation where it's like no one expected this to be as good as it was. With something like Spider-Verse, people kind of expected it because you saw the animation style right away. It was something brand new. And also, it's Spider-Man not being done by Disney. Or not being done in the MCU, which I've got nothing against those movies. I enjoy them, but with MCU, you're not going to get anything too unique, I don't think. Maybe occasionally, but not too frequently. So to me, it was no surprise that Spider-Verse was good. I'm comparing it to Spider-Verse because, you know, it's kind of adopting the animation style that Spider-Verse created, but it is doing its own thing with it. But I think that, yeah, this one's just, it's a genuine surprise. It's one of those movies that you hear people say, compliment, and you're having doubts, and then you check it out for yourself and like, holy shit, they're right. Again, Lego Movie is a great comparison for that, because everybody thought that was going to be a piece of shit, except for probably the children it was intended for. But then no, it was a really creative and really well thought out movie. And that is the same thing with this one. It covers the theme of death a lot in the movie. Am I repeating? I already said that. I'm repeating myself now. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's better than it might be better than Shrek 1 and Shrek 2. It's a little weird to compare them because aside from the fairy tale aspect of it, it's pretty different from what those movies were trying to accomplish. But I mean, it's an adventure film with fairy tale characters in it. You can compare them. I think Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 are a little funnier than this movie. Not that it's not funny. I thought a decent bit of it was actually pretty funny, pretty hilarious. And I would say that even when it wasn't hilarious, even when the jokes weren't cracking me up, it never annoyed. I think there was like one scene that annoyed me a little bit, and that was the scene with the big eyes, but it's also just kind of a Puss in Boots trademark, right? Like, they have to do that. I mean, they don't have to do it, but people expect them to do it. And it wasn't that bad. It was just like the one part of the movie where I was like, all right, I get it. Everything else was great. I heard a lot of people going into it saying they were so ready to be annoyed by that little dog and then loved him. And I loved him too. And I was actually expecting to, because I heard that. I heard everyone say that. Oh, I was so ready to hate the dog, but no, he's great. And I think what makes him work, one, the voice acting is great. Like, that, a different voice actor could have gone much higher with that voice, and it would have been really aggravating to listen to. But no, the voice actor found a good balance of keeping it like cute and a little bit higher of a voice, and a little bit dim-witted of a voice, but they kept it relaxing enough, like they kept it calm enough to where it worked. It worked really well. It kind of reminds me of Olaf from a few years ago. Never saw Frozen 2, but Frozen 1, a lot of people were ready to be annoyed by Olaf, but then the character doesn't actually shout that much. He actually speaks very calmly, very softly. And that alone put Olaf on people's, like, higher up on people's lists, just because, hey, he wasn't as annoying as we thought he was going to be. That's definitely the case with this dog. I think what also works for this dog, like the main thing, is while I didn't laugh at him that much, while I wasn't laughing at the jokes, I adored the character, because they took this character that just loves life, that's just high on life, and they gave him the most miserable existence possible. Like, everything that happened in his life up to that point, he should be looking what Puss looks like in this movie, because Puss is afraid of dying in this movie, so he's going through some horrible shit. Meanwhile, it's like, it's a really great look at yourself, look at your life kind of message. But just how dark they went with this dog's backstory, and how like tragic it is, but still like how happy and upbeat the character is. That level of darkness really did something for it, because there are other movies that would do this same thing. But one, when the dog is telling its tragic backstory, they would have like sad music playing. No, it's played like a comedy bit in this, because that's what it is to the dog. He thinks it's funny that it happened. He doesn't even realize how fucking miserable his life has been up to this point. And they would also play it down a little bit. Like, what they did to him was really fucked up. I was actually a little surprised they took it that far. Maybe I shouldn't have been. It's like one of those things I almost wouldn't have batted an eye at, like, at a certain time. I don't know, like, it kind of seems like something right out of like a fucking 30s or 40s cartoon. If anyone remembers that Tom and Jerry short where it's implied that someone drowned a bunch of kittens when they're up at Heaven's Gate. If anyone's ever seen that clip, it's like, it's on par with something like that. It's fucked up. But it works. It does the film a lot of favor. It does that character a lot of favors. And that's another, like, this movie is like a lot more adult than I was expecting it. It's a kid's movie, but the jokes they're pretty edgy. And that's the thing with Shrek, is Shrek was also pretty edgy. It was something new for the time. So I feel like this one's kind of like different times where like different things are kind of seen as edgy. And yeah, this movie has a little bit of that. Not to an obnoxious degree, but when they have it, it's very welcomed. Like, it is genuinely a pretty funny movie at points. And I think there's some jokes that definitely will go over kids' heads. But I also think there's some jokes that are very raunchy that kids will laugh hysterically at, like the cursing jokes, because they do use a censor in this movie a lot of times. But it's not just like random, like, oh, they just put a censor beep here because the character... No, like, if you put together the context of what the character is saying, you know what word he said. You know exactly what words the character is saying. And that does make it funnier. It makes it funnier than just having a random censor beep go off. Like, you remember that SpongeBob episode with the dolphin noises? I like that episode of SpongeBob, but in that one, it's kind of hard to tell which words they're actually saying, because they don't want people to piece that together. But in this movie, it's like very clear what he's actually saying, and that makes it so funny to me. So I ended up loving that little dog. Yeah, the dog's the one cursing, by the way. I don't know how much I should spoil about this movie. I'm kind of just shooting the shit and giving my thoughts, but naming some things I liked. But I can't really name anything I don't like, other than, again, that one joke in the movie that was kind of like, all right, I get it. But that's such a fucking small thing. I don't know if I can give it a 10 just because I can't ever give something a 10 right after seeing it. It has to sit on me for a while, but it's probably at least a 9 because holy shit, yeah, I don't have a single problem with this movie. I can't believe I'm saying that. I don't have a single problem with Puss in Boots 2. It might be better than Shrek 1. It might be better than Shrek 2. We will see. I'm going to let it sit on me for a while. Favorite Shrek movie is still Shrek Retold. But that was great. And it wasn't too much of a surprise for me just because, again, so much build up to it. But if you would have gone back a few months ago and told me this, it would have been a huge fucking surprise going into that. If I went into that blind knowing nothing about it, yeah. Music was great, animation was amazing. The frame rate drop whenever it's an action scene worked so well. It was so stylized, it looked so good. The colors were great. There's like 3 different villains in this movie. One's like a group of 4 villains, but then there's the John Mulaney character, and Death is like a character in this, and all of them work. All of them are interesting and fun to follow. And I think they're balanced pretty well too, so you're not like missing one too much throughout the film. It's just an insanely well-made movie, and I'd like to see DreamWorks continue in this pattern. I could also see them, obsessing over what worked in this movie and not understanding where the success came from, and them fucking it up, because studios do that all the time. But DreamWorks is one of those studios that I have a little bit more faith in, because they have always been willing to go and do something a little weirder, and they have always been like, I feel like they've had bad movies, like hit or misses throughout their entire lineup, where if something like Pixar started off as mainly just wins, and then there's like this big gap of time where there's only sequels, but then they come back. It's the same thing with Disney, is they have like these low points and high points throughout their history, where when they hit a low point, they're at that low point for quite a while. Where with DreamWorks, I feel like it's always just been up and down. I think like one movie can be great and the next one can be terrible, but I think Puss in Boots is definitely a step in the right direction, like artistically, like style-wise. Not that every movie needs to be like Spider-Verse, but this movie really isn't. Like, the fight scenes remind me of Spider-Verse. The rest of it, not really. The rest of it kind of feels like another DreamWorks movie, but they have better expressions. They have better designs. They have goofier designs. The humans in this movie look so much better than they did in the original Shrek movie and the sequel. Yeah, I think I'm good. I think that's all I need to say about this one. Definitely check it out. Huge recommendation. 2022 is looking to be a great year for movies. And you might be saying, like, 2022, what the fuck are you talking about? It's 2023. Well, this is always my catch-up time. Like at the beginning of each year, I just kind of catch up on what I missed. Like, I really only went and saw a few movies last year, but with this, like, Everything Everywhere All at Once, that movie with the weird title that I always forget how to pronounce, that was made by the Three Billboards director, the Banshees of... I don't even remember how it's spelled, so I can't tell you how to pronounce that last part. With all of that, like, it's been nothing but hits. I think the only movie I saw from that year so far that I did not like was Chippendale. And even that wasn't like Space Jam bad, it was better than other movies that have done what it's done. But yeah, I'm gonna go see The Whale now. I don't know if I'll record one of these after that, but maybe I will. It depends on how I'm feeling. So yeah, see ya.